bit. I'm a big fan of Brené Brown, who does a lot of work on shame, but also a number of other people that have done work around that. So my background is actually in education. So I've been an educator and I still teach. I'm an educator for 30 plus years. And what got me really interested in parent coaching was, and excuse me if I get a bit emotional, because I had a little boy who used to come. I'm a teacher librarian. He used to come to the library, and when he first came, he was 5, and this exuberant, curious, amazing little boy who was hard to teach, hard to parent, and over the course of a couple of years, I watched him disappear. I just watched him turn into a little boy who was angry, hated school, hated learning, and it was really sad to watch. And I adore teaching. I can't ever give it up. I love being around kids. And it made me realise that the teachers and the parents that surrounded him didn't have the skills to be able to help him learn and develop into the wonderful person he could be. And it was really sad to watch. And part of that I noticed was this inbuilt shame within him that there was something wrong with him. And so that led me to really look into this and how we can help our kids be the best versions of themselves, because they're borrowed. I have 4, there's my little picture in the background, 4 now grown kids. The eldest is 29 and the youngest is 20. And yes, I started really young, but being out the other end and knowing that, it's tough being a parent, because we're parenting real people, and also we're dealing with our own stuff that comes up. And sometimes they do things and you look at it and go, heck, that's me. I don't like that. And hopefully we're conscious and purposeful enough, and we've had some help and some understanding and some awareness to be able to then work on that. And I know I didn't when especially with my first son, and that first kid craziness and not knowing anything, even having an educational background, had studied childhood behaviour, had a background in counselling, I still wasn't prepared for parenthood.
Yeah.
So that just blew my mind. I expected that, hey, I'd be better at this stuff. And I still needed to research and I still needed to learn, and every stage brought up new things. And so what I've learned along the way is that we need to develop some strategies for managing the things that come up along the way. And one of them that I noticed for a lot of kids and a lot of families, myself included, was shame.
Yeah. So how would you describe shame in terms of with our parenting and having it ourselves, or sort of laying it onto our kids, maybe unconsciously? How would you sort of describe that?
Oh, look, no one is consciously doing this. Like, we'll just start there. No one, if we knew or we had the awareness around it, we change it. It's as simple as that. Everyone wants the best for their children. The thing is what shame is, and this is the distinction that when I started researching it, because on some level we want our kids to feel guilty if they do something they shouldn't be doing. That's not, guilt isn't a bad thing. Guilt is, I've done something and I recognise that it isn't quite the right thing to be doing. That's normal and means we assess that I probably shouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
The difference is shame is this inside internal thing that there's something wrong with me, that I'm not enough. And we often hear this played out with kids and adults. When something goes wrong, it's not the behaviour, it's the external, it's I'm crap, I'm stupid, I'm this. And that's shame.
Mm-hmm.
And it feeds into the three universal fears of I'm not loved, I won't be loved, I won't belong, and I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the really hard part. That's what shame is. It's this deep thing that there's something wrong with me and I'm not right. And it shows up in a few different ways as well. For some people, some adults, it turns into perfectionism. I've got to be good at it, extra good at everything.
Yeah.
And for others, it's the underachieving. I'm just not going to try at all.
Mm.
And in children, it shows up in a couple of different ways as well. It can show up in, again, the withdrawing, or the other way, the outward expression of anger and frustration. And so, yeah, that's how it tends to show up.
Yeah. And so with the little boy that you spoke about earlier, you were seeing signs, I suppose, that made you almost like little alarm bells ringing, thinking, oh my gosh, over this period of time, how long was it when you noticed?
I think it's an interesting thing, Stephanie, because as an educator, there's something called this year 3 drop in education. I don't know if your parents have got kids around year 3. So kids go from year 2, and from kindergarten, year 1, year 2 is not necessarily play-based, but it's a different expectations. And then they go into primary school and there's something happens in year 3. And educators have been trying to work out, what is this thing? And we've been teaching growth mindset and all that. But what really, one of the things that happens is this. Between kindergarten and year 1, if you asked a child, what are you good at? They'll tell you they're good at everything. They're rocket scientists. They're good at everything. That they don't have any concept in themselves in relation to others, which is phenomenal. Our education system, though, grades kids against each other. Now, for parents, they want to understand, is my child normal and all this and that, and I don't know the solution to this yet. But what happens is somewhere between, in about middle of year 2, around 7 to 8, kids start to understand how they fit into a group. Okay, and they start comparing themselves. Now, this is a natural developmental thing. So what happens is they're going from egocentric to more abstract, there's other people in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going from concrete understanding of the world to an abstract understanding of the world.
Yeah.
But what this means is they start to look at other people. And if the language around them at that crucial time isn't helping them understand that they're not to judge, they're on their own journey, then that's when shame can start to kick in.
Wow. So that's, I mean, we know all of childhood is such a critical time in shaping our kids and shaping their perception of themselves and their world around them. But interesting that there seems to be that that period in time where there's a big shift.
Yes.
Right? And I, like, from my understanding, and again, I am nowhere near an expert on this, but looking at kids' brain development and even the different types of brain waves that they have, it seems to be around the age 7, like 0 to 7, and then onwards is this time when, neurologically they're changing. And it is, of course, imagine, a child who is being told things like, why would you do that? That's so stupid. Go to your room. I don't want to see that. You're silly, or you're dumb, or you're an idiot, or you're always so loud, or you're always so rude. Those messages. I kind of talk about the fact that we as parents, we're trying to give our child one message. Like you said, we're trying to do the best that we can. And we might be trying to send a message of, use the appropriate behavior. That was inappropriate. I'm trying to teach you and guide you. But they may be hearing a completely different message, or receiving a different message, which is, I'm bad, I'm naughty, I'll never get this right, I'm worthless. And that's like scares the shit out of me, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's really difficult. Parenting's difficult. Teaching is difficult because we're dealing with real people. Like, these are real people that we're dealing with. It's scary. Let me tell you though that, and I heard this from a school counsellor, and when she said it, I said, "Oh my God, that is gold. I really need this. Like, this is something I needed." And she worked at the school I was working at, and she said, "You know what? Parents are supposed to get it wrong some of the time. About 70% of the time we can get it right, and 30% of the time we're meant to get it wrong. And the reason is it builds resilience." Which I went, okay, all right, I'm going to keep that one. That's really good. Thank you. So I want to make everyone relax a little bit. Okay, this is important.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. So we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about what you can do about it. But the other thing that happens, so I don't want people to go away from this thinking, you know, I've got to watch everything I say and be this super cautious. It's not that, because that's actually not good for our kids either.
Yes.
Confident parenting makes for confident kids. And we've got to be confident in what we do, and that's scary in itself. The biggest thing is that kids make things mean things. We all do. We're meaning-making machines.
Yes.
Right? That's who we are. We make meaning of everything. And if I can share a story about, you know, I've got my daughter's permission on this. It's a story that we talk about often in our family, and I use as this example, is that when she was about 21, well, just before her 21st birthday, she came to me and said, "Hey, Mum, you never let me wear Batman outfit when I was a kid." And I looked at her and I said, what do you mean? And she said, "Well, when we were growing up, Lachlan, her younger brother, who's 2 years younger than her, and he grew quicker. So she was quite small, and he ended up being taller than her, and she was shorter, but she was the old one. And he fit into the Batman outfit, and she fit into the Robin outfit." Okay, so literally she was always Robin and he was always Batman. And I said to her, now she's 20-something, nearly 21, and I said to her, "Sweetheart, what did you make that mean?" And she said to me, "I thought it meant I wasn't good enough to be Batman." And, you know, like, still, and we had that conversation, and I was able to talk to her about it and what that meant. Like, I could never in a million years have imagined that was going to be the meaning that she was going to put to that. But what happened was I was able to talk to her about that because I didn't dismiss it.
Yeah.
And then we were able, and of course the 21st birthday came around, we gave her a Batman outfit. And her new boyfriend actually thought we were all lunatics, but what I mean, so one of the things with shame is that there are going to be things that are going to happen, and kids are going to make it mean something. But if we don't have an open and compassionate way of speaking with our children, we're not going to know that. We're not going to ask the question, what did you make that mean? What did that mean for you? So if you go away with one thing tonight, or the listeners tonight, just ask that question. And no matter how old your kids are, you know, I'm talking primary school, little ones aren't going to get it. But primary school is, what did you make that mean? Because that just opens up that conversation for you to help them understand what really was going on, but they couldn't see it because they were a kid.
Yeah. And then would you say it is, let's say our child says, you know, you didn't let me have the ice cream this afternoon and I really wanted it. And we say, you know, what did you make that mean? What did that mean to you? And that they might say something like, that I haven't been, it's because I was naughty or I hit my brother this morning or something. Then do we would you suggest then saying, okay, let's talk about that's definitely not what I wanted it to mean. I know that is what your feeling was, and let's work this out together so that we're on the same page. Like, would you suggest going on to that conversation?
Yeah, I would definitely do that. Now, I add a word of caution in here. Know that this conversation's had when everyone's calm. Okay, so when the kid's angry and yelling at you, which kids do, they're kids.
All the time.
They're kids.
Yeah.
They're emotional. Adults, we're emotional. Well, hopefully we've got more control over our emotions than what they have, but they're emotional. That's normal. And so when they do that, if they're yelling that at you, don't engage in conversation at that time. Just leave it be, let them calm down. But later on, when everyone's calm, then bring it up. Because, you want them to learn that there are appropriate ways to discuss issues that you're having.
Yeah. I love that, because that opens the conversation.
Yes.
Because if something doesn't feel right to you, or if you feel like a boundary's been crossed, or someone has, done something to you, then come and we will talk about it, and that we can discuss the issue. And obviously it's age appropriate language. You might not say to a 5-year-old, let's discuss this issue, but you can say, let's talk about it. I say to my kids, I'm like, let's talk about it, let's work it out together. We can figure this out.
I'm on your team. I mean, that's the other thing. You want your kids to realise that you're actually on the same team. And that's really important. I hope we haven't digressed too much.
No, I don't think so. I think it's all related.
I will do that if you let me.
We'll waffle on together. We're probably not too good people to have in it.
But I hope that answers that question. That I think that it's important for parents to understand that we can do everything in our power, which everyone's trying to do their best by their kids. Okay. The trouble is that we're dealing with our own shame.
Yeah.
And I had a phenomenal mentor who said to me that he was talking about the journey that we go on to become what he called a professional adult. And I just love that phrasing. And what he meant by that was that to become a professional adult, we have to deal with the stuff from childhood.
Yeah.
Whatever we made it mean. Normal upbringing. We made stuff mean stuff.
Yes.
Becoming a professional adult is understanding it doesn't serve me anymore. Now I'm going to look at how can I change this? How can I? And everyone needs that. Everyone goes on that journey. And the great thing about having children is that they show it to you quicker.
Here's the stuff you need to work on.
Hey, I'm just showing it to you. Here's what you're going to work on. Thanks.
And I love how you said everyone ought to go on that journey of looking.
We do. We do regardless.
Yeah. I think
it's called your 20s. Sometimes your 30s, 40s and 50s, but a lot of people go through that journey. Like, who am I? What are my values? And hopefully they get through their beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the stuff that they took on as a child or from their family or from whatever happened to them when they were young, and they're able to understand where their thinking comes from. And that's what's important here.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if we don't go on that journey, what happens is we do pass it on.
What happens? That's a great question. If we don't, when some of it, when we don't go through looking at our childhood the way we were parented, the paradigms or the belief system, the sets of beliefs that we constructed, because we do, from, like you said, from our parents, from what happens around us, from the messages we get and we tell ourselves, and the meaning we make, we construct, or we draw conclusions about ourselves and who we are and everything. What happens when we kind of live in that not conscious state, when we're not aware of it? What is the risk of if we don't face and realize that stuff? You said we kind of bring it into our parenting.
We do bring it into our parenting. One of the things is that we do parent the way our parents parent, unless we make a conscious decision to do something different, which unfortunately sometimes can be, I'm definitely not doing that, and doing the exact opposite, whether it's good or not.
Yeah.
So the thing is that parenting has to be purposeful and conscious. Okay. And when it's purposeful and conscious, we then can step back and really have a look at, well, okay, what messages am I sending? What am I feeling about myself that I am projecting onto my child? Which I know I was guilty of it when I would get frustrated with things, and that was about me. It wasn't about my child. Yep. And it's such a hard pill to swallow. Like, it really is. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is crappy stuff to go, oh, damn, it's me. It's like, and it's not to say that kids aren't naughty and they do things they shouldn't. They do. They're kids, but we're the adults. Yeah. And we can respond in a way that helps them learn and grow from whatever stage they're at. So one of the big things is your kids are going to do stuff. They're always going to do stuff. That's just normal. They're kids.
Yeah.
But you want the things that happen to them to make them grow, not keep them where they're at.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happens to us is that if we have trauma, either perceived trauma, and I mean that in what we construct it to be, right? Then we stay at that emotional level, and we don't grow from that point, which is why you can see some adults still having tantrums. Okay, because there was something that happened that wasn't dealt with.
Yes.
So this is the key. If we don't do the work ourselves, if we don't create the awareness, then it will pass on. And and then our kids hopefully can go on the journey as well. I'm sure they will have to anyway, but hopefully not for lots of things.
Yeah. I have a friend and my business partner in my other business, my emotional intelligence for adults business, and she talks about the fact that we are trying to teach emotional intelligence to our kids now so that they don't have to pay for years of therapy in their 30s.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not going to cure that. They're not going to be, like you said, things happen. We can't control the meaning that our kids create and construct around something, but we can sure as heck be conscious and intentional about how we communicate with them, how we respond rather than react, how we guide them through those big emotional events, so that we are creating that growth mindset that you talked about, helping them problem solve. Well, what can I do if this happens again? What can I do about it? What's something that will help me calm down, or what's something that will that I can do to get through this next time? So I love that. I think it's yes, when we are sort of shifting our way of being as a parent and a person, we are really impacting our kids' lives now, but into the future, and what kind of parents they will be.
Yes.
So
yeah, and that's a hard thing to do, as you know, because our kids trigger us. That's a real thing. We get triggered, or we trigger them. And the trigger is just a pattern. So it's the start of the strategy or the pattern that we fall into. And so it becomes, okay, if we don't like the way we're responding, then there's work to be done. Yeah. There's work to be done to stop that trigger and to understand what's triggering.
Yeah, it's almost like a ugly little gift saying, here is something you need to work on. Go and
poorly wrapped gift.
Yeah. We have to think, what is the lesson here? Oh my gosh, I say to parents all the time, I'm learning about this, I'm teaching about it, I'm researching, and I'm trained, and I still stuff up. I still make massive mistakes, and I still have to say, guys, I'm really sorry, I just snapped at you. That was nothing to do with you. I've just had a bad day and I can't control
But you know what? That's perfect. This is the key. So I'm conscious of the time. We're doing really well.
as long as your voice is holding out.
So good. So the thing is that how do we stop this shame? So what can we do as parents? So because now that we've highlighted that it's a thing, we don't want our kids growing up thinking I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
We want them to grow up, I've made a mistake. What can I learn? It doesn't mean I'm bad or something wrong with me.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want them to feel guilty if they've done something wrong. It's good.
It's a helpful emotion, isn't it? Because it's that ping of like, oh, I should not have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. I need to do something to fix. Yeah.
That's good. So what do we do as parents? So there's a number of things. Number one, awareness of your own triggers. We need to start being aware. But something else that's really powerful is, yes, that question that I talked about, what did you make it mean? But something called collaborative problem solving with kids. And that's after the emotion, everything's died down, to sit down with them and ask them questions. And every time you want to tell them something, turn it into question. So I like to use this model of, ask rather than tell. Always ask a question. Now, they may not know the answer, because especially if they're younger, but still ask the question. Let them try it on. Let them think about it.
Yeah.
And offer them variations. So give them a little bit of scaffolding, a little bit of, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this, some language around it. But what you did and I've done it as well, is the ability for a parent to say, hey, I was out of line. I really shouldn't have reacted that way. I'm really sorry. This is what was going on for me, but that's not an excuse. What does that teach our kids? That people are humans. And the other really important thing for them to learn is that most of the time, what other people say to us is not about us.
Oh, huge.
And that's huge for them when they go to school.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Because there's going to be kids who, kids are kids, they say things and we're adults, we correct them. That's, the whole kids are kids thing, boys are boys. Yep, that's true. And we're adults, we correct them and help them grow out of it. Have better strategies. But that's the thing, is helping them see you're human, they're human. Because the perfectionism thing comes about when they feel like nothing they do is going to be good enough. So,
and that pressure to not be able to make a mistake or stuff up. So I need to have everything together and do it right and say it right all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge. I mean, a lot of parents may be listening to this right now. It would be going, oh, yep, tick, 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 tick. And that perfectionism is really a cry out that I feel like I'm not good enough. Therefore, I've got to overcompensate constantly. I've got to make sure and it's different to high standards. Having high standards is one thing, and I'm going to say this with absolute love, because a few people might just go, oh, when I say it, and I hope it helps people think about it, is that perfectionism means a lack of standards. I just let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
And it is a lack of standards, because if you have a high standard, you say this is where this job is done, or where this is adequate, or where this is enough, I'm enough. That's a boundary point. But if you don't have that, it's never good enough. There's never, and that's I'm not good enough.
Wow.
And so perfectionism is a big thing for parents to work on if they're trying to create this perfect world for your child. You can't.
Yeah.
It's unachievable. Trying to be the perfect mum, it's totally unachievable. Trying to have the perfect relationship, the perfect everything, it's unachievable. We need to work on that, we're human. We make mistakes, and being able to acknowledge it and talk to other people about what your intention was is really important.
I love that. I agree 100%. And I know that as a mum, when I withhold showing my kids that I've stuffed up or make a mistake, it clicks with me now. And I think, Steph, show it, let it out, mention it, say it. I could quickly just, if I've burnt the dinner a little bit, just fix it up and go on my way. They don't need to know. It's not a big deal. Or if I'm, I had a tough day with a friend or something, I could just, sweep it under the rug, pick them up from school, and everything's fine. But that is like a disservice to them, because they're missing out on me modeling and showing them, wow, I stuffed up today. I overshot this thing, or I didn't put enough effort in, or I hurt my friend's feeling, or whatever. And it feels really yuck. You know what? It's okay. And this is what I did about it. This is how I moved on. And I want to share that with you guys so that you can learn, and and I'm not perfect, and we don't need to strive for perfection.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it helps them develop empathy. It also helps them realise that in a family, and I'm big on this, having 4 kids and a husband who works really long hours, it was that we're part of a team. And when you're part of a team, everyone looks out for each other and everyone works together, including the parents. And so if you want kids to understand that when you're having a crappy day, hey, mate, I just can't do it today. I can't, I'm really tired. As long as that's not every day, they will give you that space when they're old enough. And they will say, yeah, okay, Mum, can I make you a cup of tea?
Yeah.
Or something like that, because they know that they have that ability to see that everyone's a human, everyone has good and bad days. It's passing. You also teach them resilience of emotions. You teach them so many things by showing them that you're human.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Beautiful. I love that. So one of the kind of questions that I wanted to ask is, is there an opposite to shame, or what is the opposite, or what is the antidote to shame? I don't know if you've covered that, but if you want to sort of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. So the antidote to shame, and it will sound corny, and it is love. That is absolutely the antidote to shame. And it's unconditional love. It's that I will love you when you're mad. I will love you when you're bad. Bad's not a great word I like, but if we're going to say when you do something that's not so great, I'm going to love you regardless. And I'm going to tell you that. That does not mean I'm going to condone your behaviour. I'm not going to do something about it. But this unconditional love, I love you. I don't like what you did. What you did wasn't a good idea. It didn't work. It's not going to help you in the long run. But I love you.
Yeah.
I love all of you. And you're perfectly imperfect the way you are, as we all are. We've all got strengths, weaknesses, and as parents, it's our job to help bring out the strengths and give managing and strategies for the not so great strengths.
Yeah, I love it. Wonderful.
Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Antidote to shame is just unconditional love. And I actually think when you said that, it kind of clicked for me, and I thought, in reading about the older, more traditional parenting style versus the newer conscious parent style, is that one of the differences, in my opinion, I should say, is that the older style was kind of on like conditional love. So, you're a good boy, you're a good girl, be polite, and I love it when you do this, and I love it when you're that. Whereas, as you were saying, the new kind of parenting paradigm is unconditional love and understanding and empathy and compassion, and knowing that they're going to stuff up, they're going to get it wrong, they're going to be selfish, they're going to be egocentric, they're going to do the thing that you've asked them not to do 5 times. And just knowing that our kids will do that, and that if we can get to the space by doing the work where we are okay with that, and we don't get triggered, but we then go into emotion coaching and teaching and guiding, then that's, you know, that's massive. I think that there's a big difference between that conditional and unconditional love, but we don't really think about that. You know, it's.
Yeah, I think that's what we grew up with. We definitely grew up with that, which is that part of us that feels not good enough. I mean, I look, you know, I'm 50 something and still, you know, it rears its ugly head every now and then. You know, maybe I'm not good enough for this, but then luckily I've got the voice that says, yeah, hang on a minute, work that stuff out. But kids don't have that voice. We've got to be that voice for them.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Oh, I think we could talk all night.
Oh, we could. I know. Are there any other questions?
Yes, there were a couple. Let me have a look. One mum said, yes, we all want to be perfect, but perfect imperfections. So getting rid of that perfectionistic. A question was, how can therapists support children and parents in this space? I work with children with special needs and those who've had a history of trauma. So how can therapists, so I used to be a speech pathologist. There are obviously OTs and other child therapists. How can they sort of support children and parents with what we know about shame?
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed is that is the language that kids use around themselves. Yeah. And often they will hear that from the adults around them, or maybe even other kids, but this language, I'm stupid, or I'm this and I'm that. And often kids with learning disabilities start to realise the differences that they have, and it can become really difficult. I know my eldest son, he didn't read till he was 10, which is quite frustrating for a teacher librarian. He specialised in teaching reading, but he could taught me a lot. He didn't want to do the easy sort of reading, and he did. He eventually started reading, and I used a specific strategy to help him. He now is a biomedical scientist, so that didn't hinder him in any way. So, but it would have if I didn't do a lot of work on helping him understand that he had all these other talents. And this is one of the keys with kids who do have a learning difficulty or who are neurodiverse, that they have talents in other areas. And it's really important to help them embrace those talents in that area, because confidence and recognition in one area can flow into other areas as well. And that we all have learning difficulties. We're all good at certain things. And yes, you can get better at them with hard work and working on growth mindset. If your parents haven't looked into Carol Dweck and her work with growth mindset, I encourage them to go and have a look at her work around growth mindset and how that helps kids. But that's the biggest thing, is finding that thing that makes them them.
Yes.
And really bringing about that. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And as you were talking about that necessity of helping kids find what lights them up and what they're good at and what they love, that reminded me of a gentleman called Peter Benson, who does a beautiful TED talk, and I'm sure does a lot of work around helping kids find their spark.
Yeah.
And as parents, part of parents' role is to help your child find what lights them up, what gives them that sparkle in their eye, what they are great at, what they could do with their eyes closed, what just puts them in that state of flow. It could be, like he talks about, that it could be creative, artistic, it could be sporty, it could be science, like a STEM thing, it could be anything, or something really left of center.
Nature, it could be animals, it could be relationships. They might be great at caring for others.
Yeah.
It could be any of those things.
Yeah.
And yes, we need to help them find that and know that it might change, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. They're kids. And as adults, we change our minds. It's all good.
Yes. Yeah, we do. Yeah, I think that is so important for helping them to build their sense of identity and their sense of who they are and what makes them special. Because if we have kids, like you said, neurodiverse kids or kids who may have anxiety, I work with families, like parents and kids who have anxiety, and it is so treatable, treatable. And yet I meet and talk to and get messages from so many parents who are saying, my son or my daughter is doing this and saying this, and we can't do this. And it's just knowing, like, as you said, kids create meaning from everything that they experience. They're experiential learners. So if we can do a little bit in helping them find what lights them up, what makes them them, what builds their resilience and builds their confidence, I just think that is, like, we're putting ourselves strides ahead of where we could be if we were just kind of floating along, unaware of, how we were parented and how we're bringing that into the now and everything like that. So
yeah. One more thing that I'd like to add with that is that there needs to be a standard around how we talk. And so I know this is something, what I say is that it's okay to be sad, mad and frustrated. You can't be mean.
Yeah.
And that includes to yourself. So for some reason it's okay for you, it's not okay to call someone else stupid, but it's not okay to call yourself stupid either. So that standard, I'm not accepting you, that's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay to, and being firm in that standard. It's not okay for you to call yourself stupid. And then later making sure that you're building it up in other ways. But dealing with that, so dealing with that particular behaviour is don't accept it. What happens is a lot of parents will go into, oh, but you're not stupid, and which is a natural response. Just start with, no, we don't talk about ourselves in that way. We don't talk about other people. You can be frustrated, but you can't be mean to yourself or to others. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Let them settle down and then have that collaborative conversation, later, and build in the other things to help them find their spark and think. But don't accept that. Don't accept it from them.
No, because we're the ones there who are the leaders and the guides and the coaches for our kids. Like, yes, they don't come with a manual. They don't have their own manual. Neither do we, but we are the ones with the world experience and the years, and we can shape our kids' sense of self and their identity, and I think that's a massive part of our role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm wary that your voice is
oh no, my voice is starting to go. I've been recording all day, so it's a good thing.
I want to say a massive thank you. I've kept you way longer than we planned. But I think it has been so valuable and so beneficial for the parents who are watching along. We have some comments and things, and we will go back through and answer some of those. There's lots of beautiful comments and things like that. So we might call it a night, but we'll go back through afterwards when we hop off and answer some of your questions. But Kathy, can you let us know if people want to get in touch with you, if they are really interested in this topic, in shame or parenting, where can they get in touch? Where can they get support? Do you have anything coming up?
I do run workshops quite regularly. This is a popular one. I have a group called Extraordinary Parenting Hub, which I know you're part of, Stephanie. And so if people want to join that group, you're welcome to join the group. I will be putting up in the next week I've got what I normally talk about is the 10 guides to knowing if shame is playing out in your family. And so it's just some little guide points to go, okay, is this happening in our family? And so you can sort of go, well, that's there. And so and some steps to help in that area. So I'm going to be putting that up in the next week. And so if people want to come over and join the group, then know that will be a part of the group. And like yourself, it's a great opportunity to talk about parenting and have support. And yeah, my specialty is around helping kids with behaviour, which is so linked with the emotional intelligence, so which is fantastic.
Yes, yeah, thank you. I've already sneakily put your Extraordinary Parenting Hub link in the comments, so you guys can already go in, join Kathy's group, join the conversation there, and I'll see if I can put it in the description of the video as well. But you know, Kathy will be, I've tagged her, so you guys can connect with her and ask questions if you want. So thank you again so much, Kathy.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Love it.
Thank you.